Good day. Today is Sunday, October 23rd, 2022. A cloudy, windy day here in the desert. Perhaps some rain tonight. Today I'm looking at chapter 69 of the Tao Te Ching. True warriors seek to defend rather than conquer. To conquer in the name of defense is to deceive the people. So we overcome without conquering, confront without weapons. To have an enemy is a great tragedy, for it breaks our inner unity. To separate ourselves from an opponent is to separate ourselves from ourselves. In conflict, we refuse to separate ourselves. Thus we can effect peace. Of course, conflict is a given in human experience. Lao Tzu is not a strict pacifist. He acknowledged, with a great deal of sadness, that the fear-filled lives of humanity, separated from its true nature, will cause people to attack and defend self, family, community, territory, nation. So he gives advice to help us minimize the damage done in these circumstances. Sort of like the samurai of the Edo period in Japan, the warrior he's talking about is the one drawn into conflict, but who does not separate themselves from the opponent by making the opponent into an enemy. The opponent, even in a life and death conflict, was by the samurai seen as simply a part of the Tao, honored, respected, fought, and when the fighting was done, if they were alive, reconciled, if at all possible. This ability to remain connected in an energetic way with an opponent during a conflict, keeping part of the whole thing together, makes self-defense even more effective. One doesn't stand apart, alone, separate, afraid, having to somehow battle this unknown enemy. But in true self-defense, the warrior merges with the opponent and intuits what's happening within the energy field. In Tai Chi, there's a form for two people called push hands, in which two people connect by their palms or by their wrists and engage in a push and pull attempt to knock the other person off balance. And when the contest works at its best, there's this sensing another person's push and yielding, yielding and sensing another person's yield and push. A very complicated dance, but it operates on the principle of non-separation. And it's a beautiful thing, both to participate in and to watch. And in life, even when someone's behaving dishonorably, truly dishonorably, and in an evil fashion, we have the ability to treat them with honor because we're honorable and we see them in a context that they perhaps can't see for themselves. We see them as part of this one thing that's going on, even if they don't see us that way. And it affects the way we behave, and it makes us more effective. It doesn't lessen our ability to defend and honor ourselves. It actually enhances it because we're not double-minded and separate. We don't necessarily routinely face life and death conflicts, but our life is actually filled with semi-conscious, half-conscious, minor and major interpersonal conflicts that can cause us a great deal of misery when we lapse into that sense of separation and enemy. Jesus coined the words, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." His words were echoed by Abraham Lincoln, speaking of the United States as a nation. When I completely separate myself from an opponent and make them into an actual enemy, I've actually divided my own self, and I've sown the seeds for my own fall. Now, honoring myself and a certain kind of self-protection in the face of conflict is appropriate, but it remains in the context of not dividing myself, not separating myself. So when I ask myself, how do I handle the interpersonal conflicts in my life? I ask myself, is this person or people or nation or group truly a threat? How? What's really going on here? Perhaps action is necessary. Perhaps vigorous action is necessary. But what action and when to take it and how to take it? These are questions that I ask from a context of not separating inside of myself, not cutting myself off from the whole field of what's going on. I may have to separate myself from an opponent or a conflict person if it seems to be the best action to take for both parties for healing. But the essential unity inside of myself remains honored. I don't let myself fall into the trap of separation, of separating myself from myself. I stay connected to myself, and therefore I stay connected to the whole field of what's going on in my life. And when I'm connected to that whole field, I take more effective action, more helpful action, wiser action, calmer action, and I defend myself and my family or whoever with the most effective means possible. And I don't, inside of myself, create an enemy. It's sort of theoretical, but I'm imagining that all of us have major and minor conflicts that can cause us a great deal of suffering and thought and frustration and wondering what to do. Not necessarily easy to solve, but the first step is not to lose connection with myself and my connection to all that is, and to understand that the other person and people are still part of that as well. Well, I hope that your day is not conflict-filled, that you have peace and contentment and some happiness and joy as you go down the road. And down that road, I'll see you later on. Blessings.